In the year 1600, on a fog-covered battlefield in central Japan, 160,000 warriors stood facing each other. This was Sekigahara, the battle that would decide who ruled Japan. On one side, Tokugawa Ieyasu, on the other, Ishida Mitsunari. The night before the fight, Mitsunari was restless. He paced his camp, worrying about traitors, replaying possibilities, drowning in what-ifs. His body was armed. His mind was not. Across the valley, Tokugawa Ieyasu sat in silence. He meditated. Then he slept. The next morning, one commander walked into battle, exhausted and anxious. The other walked in calm and clear. By noon, it was over. Tokugawa Ieyasu had won. Japan was unified under his rule for the next 250 years. Mitsunari lost not just the battle, but his head. This is the difference between a sharpened sword and a sharpened mind. The samurai didn't just forge steel, they forged themselves. And in this video, you'll learn how to start forging your own mind into a weapon, using the same principles they lived and died by. Let's start with the most shocking idea in samurai philosophy. In the early 1700s, a former retainer named Miyamoto Musashi dictated his thoughts to a younger scribe. Those conversations became Hagakure, Hidden Leaves, a book that would define the warrior mindset for centuries. The first line is brutal. The way of the warrior is found in death. On the surface, it sounds insane. Why would a philosophy of life begin with death? Because the samurai weren't trying to feel good. They were trying to be ready. Tsunetomo told warriors to rehearse their own death every morning and every night, to imagine the worst possible endings, being cut down, disgraced, betrayed, and to accept them fully in their mind, not because they wanted to die, but because they knew one thing. A man who is still bargaining with fate cannot stay calm in chaos. Modern neuroscience actually backs this up. When you face danger, your brain's alarm system, the amygdala, lights up. Your heart races, your muscles tense, your thoughts narrow. That's helpful if you're avoiding a car crash. It's not helpful when you need to think strategically under pressure. But the rational part of your brain, the prefrontal cortex, can learn to calm that alarm. It can literally dial down fear with training. The samurai were doing a primitive version of this. By repeatedly confronting the idea of their own death in meditation, they were exposing their fear system to its worst nightmare in a controlled environment. Over time, the shock fades. Death stops being an unthinkable horror and becomes a possible outcome you've already made peace with. So when real danger appears, the fear is still there, but it's quieter. Your mind stays clearer. You can see options instead of just doom. This is the first step in forging your mind into a weapon. You stop pretending you're safe forever. You face the truth. You are going to lose things in life. You will be rejected. You will fail. One day, you will die. If you can accept that, a lot of everyday fear loses its power over you. But acceptance alone doesn't win fights. You also need performance, the ability to act without hesitation. For that, the samurai relied on something called kata. Kata are precise, choreographed patterns, the same sword draw, the same step, the same cut, repeated thousands of times. To an outsider, it looks boring. To a samurai, it was wiring the nervous system. They weren't training to know what to do. They were training until they couldn't help but do it. Modern psychologists call this automaticity. Athletes call it muscle memory, or being in the zone. It's when you've practiced so much that your body acts correctly before your thinking mind has time to interfere. The samurai pushed this further with a kind of early stress training. They didn't only practice on smooth wooden floors at perfect temperatures. They trained in armor, in mud, in rain, at night, while hungry. They added difficulty on purpose. The logic was simple. If you can draw your sword correctly when you're tired, cold, and scared, you'll definitely be able to do it when conditions are slightly better than that. You can apply the same principle. If you only work when you feel motivated, you're training a weak mind, one that needs conditions to be perfect. A samurai mind is trained in discomfort. Study when you're a bit tired. Work even when the environment isn't ideal. Practice your skill when you don't feel like it. Every rep in bad conditions is worth 10 reps in comfort. Now, let's talk about one of the most powerful mental tools the samurai used, even though they didn't have the science for it: visualization. Before battles, warriors and generals would walk the terrain, then sit in silence and fight the battle in their imagination first. They pictured the enemy's likely moves. They imagined their own fear rising and settling. They saw, in their mind's eye, the chaos. Men shouting, horses screaming, the clash of steel. But here's the key. They didn't just imagine everything going their way. They imagined things going wrong, being pushed back, plans failing, allies breaking, even being wounded. And then they mentally rehearsed their response, regrouping, adapting, continuing. Today, we know this isn't just positive thinking. Brain scans show that when you vividly imagine an action, your brain activates many of the same neural pathways as when you actually do it. That means mental reps are real reps for your nervous system. So when reality resembles something you've imagined 100 times, your brain doesn't panic. It recognizes the pattern. It has a script ready. You can start using this immediately. Before a high-pressure moment, an exam, a meeting, a competition, a hard conversation, don't just fantasize about a flawless performance. That doesn't prepare you for much. Instead, run 3 scenes in your head. Scene 1. Things go well. You speak clearly. You handle questions smoothly. You walk out confident. Scene 2. Things go badly. You stumble. You forget. Someone reacts badly. Feel the embarrassment. Stay with it. Scene 3. Recovery. You take a breath. You make a joke. You clarify your point. You finish anyway. You're training your mind not to see failure as the end of the story, but as one scene in a longer movie you still control. That is a samurai way of thinking. All of this, acceptance of death, repetition in discomfort, visualization, leads to one state the samurai worshipped. They called it Fudoshin, the immovable mind. Fudoshin doesn't mean you feel nothing. It means your core doesn't get thrown around by every external event. One of the greatest swordsmen in history, Miyamoto Musashi, spent his life dueling and winning. In his final years, he retired to a cave and wrote Dokudo, the way of walking alone. In it, he wrote lines like, "Do not seek pleasure for its own sake. Do not let yourself be guided by the feeling of lust or love. In all things, have no preferences." He wasn't saying never enjoy life. He was warning against being owned by your cravings, and aversions. If you must be comfortable, you'll break under discomfort. If you must be liked, you'll bend your values to please others. If you must win every time, you'll collapse the first time you lose. An immovable mind is one that can want things, success, love, victory, but is not destroyed when reality doesn't cooperate. It stays focused on the way, not just the outcome. So how do you begin forging a mind like this in normal life? Here's a simple daily framework using samurai principles. First, morning acceptance. When you wake up, take 1 minute and tell yourself quietly, "Today is not guaranteed. This could be my last day." Then ask, if that were true, what suddenly wouldn't matter and what absolutely would? You'll notice a lot of petty worries lose their grip immediately. Second, deliberate discomfort. Choose one thing every day to do when you don't feel like it. A workout, 10 minutes of deep work, a difficult message you've been avoiding. Do it because part of you resists it. You're teaching your mind, I don't obey comfort. Comfort obeys me. Third, mental rehearsal. Before any important event, spend 3 to 5 minutes visualizing it. Include success, failure, and recovery. Give your brain a map before it steps into the territory. Fourth, the pause. When you feel triggered, angry, scared, insulted, don't respond immediately. Take a few slow breaths. Let the first wave of emotion pass. Only then choose your action. Every time you catch yourself and pause, you're forging another layer of steel in your character. The samurai folded steel over and over to create a sword that was both hard and flexible. You're doing the same with your mind. Every time you accept a hard truth, instead of running from it, you fold the steel. Every time you practice under discomfort, instead of waiting for perfect conditions, you fold the steel. Every time you rehearse how you'll respond to chaos, you fold the steel. Every time you pause, instead of reacting blindly, you fold the steel. Slowly, you become less brittle, less reactive, less controlled by fear and impulse. You become dangerous, not to others, but to your own weaknesses. You may never stand on a battlefield like Sekigahara, but you will face battles, anxiety,